What's up, lovely people? Welcome back to another video right here on Entrepreneur Podcast Club. I'm your host, Mr. EPC, and today we got yet another very special guest on my podcast. So this is Kerry for part two of the podcast. If you've not seen part one, do go and take a look at that. And Kerry, welcome again to the podcast, and thank you very much for your time. So, how important is self-confidence in business?
Oh, really? Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me back. I really enjoyed our first podcast, which was kind of more about kind of my background and how I got to becoming a mindset coach and an RTT hypnotherapist and a property investor and developer. I clearly like stress, don't I, to be in property.
Yeah.
So yeah, so just to kind of remind people, just to let people know if they haven't seen the first one, the property is I'm a bit obsessed with property. I just really love it. But helping people with their mindset and overcome blockers is what I get fulfillment from that. And I think it goes back to when I first started and I was shifting from my day job into property because I just realized that I did not want to do the 9 to 5 anymore. It was almost soul destroying, allowing someone to tell me when I could go on holiday and things like that. And I really wanted to get out of that so desperately, but I didn't know how, and I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't think that I could be a business owner because I'd not come from that background. So your question, why is mind confidence so important in business? It's absolutely everything. Self-confidence is absolutely everything. And going back to when I first started in property, I really didn't have that self-confidence. I just knew that I'd bought this course and I had to make it work. And it was very clunky and I got a load of stuff wrong. And eventually I got it right. I learned a lot through my mistakes. And the reason why I do what I do now, helping entrepreneurs. I work with quite a few people within the property industry because that's my background and I know a lot about it. The reason why I do what I do is because if I would have had someone that could have helped me way back when, 12 years ago, when I got started in property, oh my goodness, it would have been like a light bulb moment. It would have saved me probably years. I would have achieved more. I would have created more, and I would have had a little bit more fun on the journey rather than being so stressed out and then having that self-doubt. So when we talk about confidence, sometimes we all know people, don't we, that look really confident from the outside.
Mm.
And when we actually kind of get to know them a little bit more, there's probably quite a lot of self-doubt running underneath all of that. And we all have self-doubt. We all have fear. It's quite a natural human response to have that because the mind has one primary role, and that's to keep us safe, to keep us away from danger, and to keep us alive. And within that runs fear and doubt. So, kind of going back to your question, I know I've gotten the long way around it, haven't I? Going back to your question, why is self-confidence having that mindset of believing in yourself when you're in business? It's absolutely everything. It's almost like the engine room for everything else that you do.
Okay, a really good answer there. So, in terms of self-worth, you mentioned a few good points there. You could have that imposter syndrome when going into business. So, how important is to have that self-worthness and feeling good enough to actually deliver the product or, going into business and actually succeeding?
Well, I believe it's absolutely everything. And I think when you shift from being a employee to an entrepreneur, or from an entrepreneur to a bigger business owner, you're always going to be shifting and pushing the boundaries and pushing your comfort zone. So even if you're an established business owner, but you're now ready to scale up or diversify, you're going to probably feel exactly what you just said. imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is, just to give you an example for people who might not know what it is, and I definitely have experienced this several times throughout my career so far. It's the thoughts of, oh my goodness, who do I think I am? People are going to know that I don't really know what I'm doing yet. You know that kind of saying, fake it before you make it.
Yeah,
And I think there's a lot to be said about that. But some people are still just faking it, and that takes a lot of energy because they're not really believing in themselves. They don't really feel as though they deserve to be in the position that they're in right now. Or more importantly, they don't feel as though they're worthy of achieving the goals that they've set out for themselves, or the goals that they dream of, or the life that they dream of, whether that's in wealth or health, health goals and relationships. And when we don't really believe at an energetic level that we deserve to have all of that happiness and the successes, whatever that might look like, you know, for some people, money isn't a measure of success. It's about having a really healthy body, or it might be having a very happy family, or just finding the love of your life. Success means different things for different people, but it all comes back to what your relationship is like with yourself, and the internal dialogue that you might be having within your own mind.
yeah. Some really good points there. So like there's people like the energy that you give out is the energy that you get back. So
Yeah.
if you're got positive mindset, then you'll attract positive people who are on the same mission as you. But if you got a negative mindset and be like, yeah, I can't do this, then that will impact you mentally, and you probably won't fulfill what you're trying to do. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so
a bit of a downward spiral. If you have a negative mindset, then your internal, that little conversation that we have with ourselves, the internal chatter that we have. If your negative mindset is the most dominant of the two, of positive or negative, most likely your conversation that you're going to be having with yourself about yourself is not going to be very kind. And that leads to them, everything starts with a thought and then leads to a feeling and an emotion. So if your outlook is negative, it's highly likely that your feelings about yourself are going to be negative. So then what you'll do then is you're most likely to see negative things and negative people and problems. You'll find problems from that negative mindset. And then you talked about a good point there, energy. Energy is so powerful as well. And if we have a negative energy, then other people are going to feel that negative energy. Some people will be repelled by it because their energy is higher. And some people might think, oh, this person's a bit like me. So that's when you then get two negative Nellies together and they just talk about negative stuff. You see it happening all the time. And then the opposite is having a more positive mindset, which will then attract a more positive energy.
absolutely. So in terms of all of that limiting beliefs and all that negativity, let's say someone's really trying to change themselves, what steps could they take in order to move from negative Nancy to positive mindset?
First of all, it's about identifying and recognizing that your your outside world is a direct reflection of your inside world. So let's talk about the negative side. So if you're someone that's quite negative and you don't really believe in yourself, you don't really feel as though you're worthy of having success, might compare yourself to other people and think they're better than I am. That's a really common one, especially in an industry that's quite fast moving, and there's a lot of really big players in the property world, and there's a lot of new people that are coming in, and there's everything in between. So you might be comparing yourself to someone, you might be so overwhelmed with, oh, what program should I do? What trainer should I go with? What podcast should I be listening to? Obviously, this one.
Yeah. Free promotion. Thank you.
Yeah. What area should I be looking at if I'm just starting out? What strategy should I be doing? Because there's a whole heap of different, very exciting strategies that can lead to mental overwhelm. And mental overwhelm can then lead to procrastination. And when we get into that procrastination and we're kind of not sure what to do or where to go or who to hang out with or who to follow or who to speak to, that can be so overwhelming. It will highlight all of the negative points like, I'm not very good at this. I might as well just go and get a day job. This isn't going to work out for me. I'm not worthy of having what everyone else is having. And that can really lead to then people being almost kind of stuck in a rabbit hole, I'm going to call it. And when you get stuck in that rabbit hole and the fear then takes over and then the self-doubt takes over, it's it can be very, very, very difficult to get out of that. So enough of the doom and gloom. How can people help themselves? So first of all, it's about recognizing, do I fit or do I connect with anything that I've just said here? So for anyone that's watching this and you want to help yourself, is there anything that I just said a couple of minutes ago that you think, yeah, that's definitely me? That could be me, and that's something I used to do, but I don't do it anymore. Or this is something that I really want to get rid of. So choose just one or two things that you've identified with because your mind can cope with one or two tasks. If you give it a big bunch of tasks to do and you want to do it all in the next hour, that's not going to happen. Your mind could only has a certain capacity. So, secondly, it's about being honest with yourself, being like, okay, do you know what? I'm really good at this, but I'm not so good at that. And I feel that this is the thing that could be holding me back. And when you've identified that, it's then about saying, well, okay, what actions can I take to be able to help myself to overcome that? So the topic of today's podcast is kind of limiting beliefs and self-confidence. So it's about looking and saying, okay, well, what are my skill sets? What am I really good at? Let's look at the positives and let's raise the energy on those rather than beating yourself up with mean comments and comparing yourself and I'm not very good at this. Park those up. Let's really focus on the positive stuff. And I would say to people, get pen and paper, write these things down, and when we actually write things down on paper, there's a physiological reaction within the body and the mind, so it connects more, and you're actually using more of your subconscious mind, and that's where all of these thoughts and beliefs live. And this is where we need to change it within the subconscious mind. So write all of your good points down, write all of the successes that you've had so far, because you will have had a load of successes, but because your mind has been geared up to be looking at all the negative stuff, you'll have forgotten about this great stuff here. And then decide what one thing. So I'm assuming that you've got your goal and you know where you want to get to, because that's really important as well. It's a bit like if you needed to go up to Manchester, Deansgate shopping centre, you wouldn't just put in your sat nav up north. You'd put the actual postcode in, wouldn't you?
Mm.
So you've got to know, what do you want? What do you want this property business to do for you? Why are you doing it? What is it that it's going to give you? What's that going to how that is that going to make you feel? What's that going to look like? Um, and just focus on one thing in amongst all of your positives. What is the thing that could be stronger that is going to have a bigger impact to get you to where you want to get to? So let's say that, I mean, what could be a good example of that, do you think?
Um, Starting up the business and where do you want to be in like 5 years' time? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
great point. Because people don't look, people don't really know. They just kind of start getting busy and pinballing off life. They don't really have a strategy or an end goal. So yeah, and I think as well, start from the end, decide where it is you want to be, and write down the traits. What does that person need to have? This person in 5 years who's going to have, let's say, I don't know, a £1 million portfolio or £2 million portfolio, whatever it is, if that's how you're measuring, or you might want to have 5,000 net per month, whatever it is that your goal is. Okay, what kind of person what kind of person and what kind of traits and habits does this person need to have to be able to get to there? And that's a really, really great starting point. So that's going to give you a path of growth. It's going to highlight what do you need to be stronger at. So it might be that you need to be more organized, or you need to have accountability, and you can hold yourself accountable. Or if you're in a community like we all are with Saji's Wealth Academy, there's so many people that you can say, listen, can you be my buddy? Can you hold me accountable? We'll hold each other accountable. It's about looking at your resources, look at the people that you've got around you that are all on the same journey. And if that accountability might be you're gonna put so many offers in, or you're gonna raise finance, or you might finish off a project and then have another one in the pipeline. Accountability is absolutely massive. From accountability, you you will take baby steps closer and closer to your goal. And then also it's about, okay, what part of my mindset needs exercising? Because your mind is a muscle. It's just a muscle. Just like if you wanted to go to Ibiza this year and you wanted a six pack, you're going to go and do a load of sit-ups and you're going to exercise your abs. If you want to have a more of a mindset that is gets things done, and you're a person that does what you say you're going to do, which is what successful people do, then this is the part of the mindset you need to exercise as well. So holding yourself accountable, planning your week ahead, being organized, and then asking someone in your community to be your accountability buddy. I think that would be an excellent start, and that doesn't cost you anything apart from your time and your energy. And it's also kind of building connections and relationships up as well. And the key thing to success is just about doing what you say you're going to do, having a clear direction, and being consistent, doing the same thing day in, day out, day in, day out. And that's what will compound over time. And when your mind sees that you are doing what you say you're going to do, it will exercise that part of your mindset. It's like, oh, okay, I don't make excuses. I don't say, oh, I can't be bothered today, and I find something more interesting to do, like watch Netflix or have an extra nap in bed. You start to build that muscle, and that muscle, once that starts to grow, that will then help you to feel more confident. Like, I've done what I said I'm going to do. I feel really good about it. And that will then feed into your reward and motivation center in your mind, which is the dopamine. So when you do all of these things, and you know, when you've got a list and you tick off your list and it just feels so good, that's your motivation and reward center in your mind. So that's going to kick off the dopamine hormone or chemical, whatever you want to call it. And that will make you feel good about yourself. It will raise your confidence. It will make you feel happier, and it will make you feel like, actually, I'm better than I think at this. So you will have more positive thoughts. You'll have more motivation to do more of the same, because it's that dopamine chemical in your brain is really, really addictive. We get the same feeling from sugar, or if people are addicts, that's where it's all happening, in the dopamine center, the reward center. But if you've got accountability and you're doing what you say you're going to do, you're creating that dopamine in the best way, which is naturally, and that will continue to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. So going back to your question, how can someone start to have a more positive mindset? That is the perfect way. Do what you say you're going to do, accountability, and do it to the best of your ability, no excuses, and get an accountability buddy.
Okay, fantastic. So some really good points there. So let's move on to vision boards. So how important is having a vision board, visible and putting all the things that you want within the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, one of the rules of the mind is, I done a video about this actually yesterday, is the mind loves really exciting images and visuals. So, just for example, for anyone that's listening now, if you imagine, when you just like imagine a beautiful beach, beautiful white sand, lovely kind of aqua turquoisey blue sea with a lovely blue sky and the sun, you can imagine that. And there'll be other things popping up in that image, like there might be kind of like a little hut with a cocktail bar there. There might be a little table where you can put your drink and a swimming pool over this side. So you'll start to imagine other things. Everybody will see something different. And this is how powerful the mind is. If you think about that image and then imagine feeling the sun on your face, or you can hear the sea ebbing and flowing, and you hear like noise in the background, and you hear people at the bar and they're having a drink and the cocktail shaker's going off, and then there's some kind of music, some beats in the background. It doesn't take you long before you actually drift off into that place because you've visualized it, and it's so powerful. You then start to feel it, and you then start to connect it with previous memories of when you were in that place. So that's how powerful the mind is. It loves colorful, vibrant, beautiful images. So if you transfer that method and you've got it onto a vision board, and a vision board doesn't have to be anything big and fancy, it can just be something written down on some paper. You can do it electronically on Canva or on Pinterest. Um, if you've got these images on your vision boards, it might be an image of your what your portfolio might look like, an image of what your life looks like when you've achieved your portfolio, what your bank balance looks like at the end of the 5 years, and what kind of lifestyle you're going to have. Are you going to have what's important for you? So for me, slow mornings are a luxury. And I always wanted to have slow mornings because when you've got kids, the minute their eyes are open, it's like Grand Central Station, isn't it? It's just on the go all the time. So it might be that slow mornings are something that you really enjoy. It might be just going on country walks. It might be doing stuff for charity. So what are you going to do when you've created this wealth and freedom over here? What's that look like? What kind of people do you want to spend more time with that you perhaps don't spend with now? What are you going to do for your health and for yourself? So I work on the 5 Fs. So it's finances, friends, family, fitness, faith, and fun. You gotta have fun because we're not on this planet to be miserable. So yeah, that's why vision boards are so powerful. And if you pop them somewhere that you see on a daily basis, that's going to be going into your subconscious mind. Or if there's somewhere that you just see every now and again, that's okay as well, because it will just be something you look at and it's a reminder, not on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level. And as I said at the beginning, your subconscious mind is where everything happens. It's the hub. 95% of all of the hard drive, if you like, let's kind of uh, liken it to a laptop. 95% of the hard drive is in the subconscious mind, and that's what a vision board will be directly speaking to.
Okay, fantastic. So let's talk a bit about your company, your mindset company that you got. What services do you provide?
So I've got various programs. There's for people that want to really overcome blockers that they've had for too many years. I'm currently working with a lovely gentleman, and he's 67 years old. And it's taken him that long to get to a point of I've had enough of this, but I'm also working with a 21-year-old. So it's different. times for different people. So I help I help people really get identify what the blocker is, really go into that. I get to the root cause of the problem, and then we detox that. We recode that problem so it's no longer a problem, and we give it an upgrade, and we change everything that's been holding you back, that is all the negative stuff, and we just give that a massive upgrade. It's just like going up into first class on an aeroplane. No more sitting in the cheap seats. We take your mindset to first class, to business class, because at that point you then become the master of your mindset. So that's a program that I offer, and in amongst that, mindset coaching as well, teaching people how your mind really, really works, how to then become the master of your mindset rather than the servant. When we're the servant, it's heavy. We're stuck in a cycle, we're stuck in a pattern. We might have procrastination, overwhelm, addiction, all of those kind of things. But when we're the master, everything flows a lot easier. It's a higher energy. There's more confidence, there's more self-belief, there's more personal growth. And that's pretty much that's the one of the programs that I do. And then I also do 6 and a 12-month mindset coaching program for people that maybe have overcome the blocker, or the blocker isn't so important, but they really want to understand how their mind works so they can become the master. They really want accountability, they want structure, they want to get clear on their goals, and they really want to get clear from an energetic level. And in amongst of that as well, I will do solution focused hypnotherapy. So if there's a couple of problems or blockers that come up, we can do sessions on solution focused hypnotherapy to overcome those other types of challenges and blockers.
Okay. So let's go back to the second point that you mentioned, the second program that you've got where someone's achieved the first step. Is that just pushing them to get onto the next step or go taking it a bit further on their
Yeah,
journey?
it
Okay.
is. Yeah. So the second program, so the coaching, mindset coaching, it's now about really understanding how your mind works so that you can tap into that and you can utilize it to the best of its ability. And I'll teach you tools and techniques on how to do that so that you can avoid getting stuck, you can avoid any procrastination, you know how to steer yourself out of any situations where you might be having self-doubt, self-negative talk, because as humans we will have all of these things. It's just part of being a human. But if you've got the tools to be able to steer yourself out of these situations really, really quickly, you can get back on track, you can get back to being in your own lane, which is taking you to where you want to get to. You can get back to having what I call a happy brain. So all of your hormones and chemicals in your brain are all working in the right way to keep you at a higher level, to keep you happy. Because most people that I work with, I say to them, what do you want? And they just say, really, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. And then to be happy, and then some people want that looks different to different people. Some people want to have that financial freedom, and that's then what is going to make them happy. So it's different things for different people, but fundamentally people just want to feel happier, have a happier mindset that is the right mindset for them to be able to get the best out of their business, out of their from their health, and from all of their relationships.
Okay, fantastic. So you mentioned there that people wanted to be happy. So one definition of happy could be different to the next person's. So like for example, having less possessions but maybe happier. Others maybe more having driving a flashy car that may make them happy. So how do you define what is the definition of happy for them?
Yeah, well, that's very much a personal thing. So people, when someone says to me, and I worked with a guy that was a multimillionaire, he could have bought anything he wanted to buy, and he said, I can buy anything I want. He said, but I'm still not happy. And he just wanted to be happy. So when we worked together, this went right back to him, his childhood. So we worked with that to be able to, for him to then feel happy regardless of how much money he had. So he thought the money was going to make him happy, and it didn't. So then there was something deeper there that we had to work on, and we worked through that together. So you're right, different people will have a different definition of happiness. For some people, it's as much money as they can get in the bank. It's having the Lambo, the villa in Dubai, or um, Marbella, having a big house with gates and blah, blah, blah. And if that's their definition of happiness, then that's right for them. For other people, it might be having less stuff, having less attachment to stuff. And that can also be what really which makes them happy. Because I find that, and there was another guy, I didn't work with him, but he's a really good friend of mine. Again, very wealthy, still working, complaining about it every single day, working in and on his business, complains about it all the time, moans every single day of the week. And I said to him, I said, listen, I said, you could retire right now. I think he was about 53 at the time. You could retire right now and never have to work a day in your life and be financially secure. And he said, yeah, but it's like every year I just think 1 more million, 1 more million. And then there's the fear that was driving him of losing it all and going back to having nothing. So what was making him happy was just continually making money, but I don't actually think he was happy because he complained all the time. The words that come out of people's mouths leave clues, and I said to him, well, you moan every single day, you're moaning about this job. So what do you want? And then some people's definition of happy is just to have peace within themselves, to be at peace within themselves, to have an amazing relationship with their partner, or to have a beautiful relationship with their children. And that is all they need. They don't need stuff or money or attachments to stuff or objects. So it's a very, very personal, intrinsic thing, that question. And it is a really great question. And I'd say for anyone that's listening to this podcast, ask yourself, what is that question? Because if I was to be working with you, say, I would really explore that. We'd spend quite a lot of time on what is it that you want? Okay, you know what you think you want. What do you really want? Because if you don't know what you really, really want, how do you know when you've got it? So it is a really great question.
Yeah, some really good points that you mentioned there. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for this podcast. Big big shout out and thank you to Kerry for taking the time out to speak to me again. And if you did like this podcast, please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And we'll put all the links to Kerry's social media in the description box below. So if you are looking for a mindset coach, please do reach out to Kerry. She said some amazing things in this podcast. And thank you very much for watching.